This is my favorite trick. It just feels so good. I come up here to turn kinetic energy into G-force. I'm not going to waste such a precious resource by skidding to a stop. Of course not. I love the carve turn and I want to milk every ounce. Thus, the 360. And then of course, the 540. It's my signature, it's my tag. It says, James was here. I'm going to show you how this trick is done right now. Expect it to take some practice. The Carve 360 is an advanced carve turn. If you can't do a 180 degree J turn clean, then work on that first. The video link is in the description. If you keep stalling out at 270, get way back on your tail and kick that board forward with some power. Put some weight on that dragging hand and use it like a kayaker braces with his paddle and pulls the boat around the paddle with his core and his opposite leg. Drag that hand all the way into your back toes and stand up. The tailspin finish also looks super cool from 270 or even from 180. So long as you end up on your feet, you're going to drop some jaws, or at least raise some eyebrows. No one is doing this move yet. That's maybe mostly because their toes start to drag with the high board angulation this trick requires. This one is tough if your toes are overhanging. I recommend wider boards, of course, risers, steeper posy angles, a rear entry binding, and a smaller boot with a lower sole length because boot out sucks. But Carve 360s are awesome, so let's get into it. What follows are excerpts from my How to Carve a 360 clinic at Montucky last week. First though, let's have a quick look at one turn in more detail. Not this one, that's a heel side.
And yeah, just pick the nice flat spot, come in with lots of speed, super wide, and start getting on your tail, and then the final kick at the end, and you're grabbing that hand to really make that kick, and pulling that hand to your back toe to stand up.
This is the turn I want to show you. Coming in with some speed at the bottom of Hot Sauce, Revelstoke Mountain Resort. Line it up, and here we go. Nice and smooth all the way around, and a little extra because why not? Thank you very much. Okay, how do we do that? Whoop. Okay, so you got to pick your speed. This was a bit narrow. I don't want to be going too fast. This snow was medium firm, so I don't have a ton of angulation, but you can see right there how I'm dragging my toes. Look at that track. That is my toes making that track so wide. But otherwise, I'm displacing a pretty minimal amount of snow for the tight radius turn, and for the steepness and the softness of the snow. So that's super important, right? I want to get around that first 180 while maintaining a lot of speed. So through here, I'm relatively neutral on both feet, okay? Just a regular turn with speed, dragging the hand, but not really putting a lot of weight on it, just kind of holding it there to help stabilize my edge in the snow so I don't suffer any chatter or lose any speed. And right about here, just as I come up on 180, now I'm starting to shift the board back. Look what happens between here, where I'm relatively neutral, and here, where I'm definitely on the back of the board. So make sure that's happening in there. Before we proceed, I actually want to go look at this again. Look how much patience there is here. My body, relative to the board, for this 60 degrees a turn here, barely moves at all. Okay, and then we start pushing that board forward because I'm heading back slightly uphill. And I need to make that distance, because if I can make it to here, now I'm at the top of the hill again, and I can start gaining some speed as I come down. Look how far again I'm leaning back. That whole nose of the board from the midsection up is in the air and doesn't touch down again. Okay. Now here, this is where I'm doing that kayak thing. See the bend in that board from my pulling on my front leg? And now I'm pushing that board forward, and then pulling that hand towards my back toes to help me stand up. So one more time, come in with plenty of speed, start wide, minimal snow displacement, nice and smooth with patience through that first 120, and then we start to push that board forward and lean back, using that hand, putting weight on that hand, using it like a pivot point, but it's like a pivot point that you're dragging. That's why I use the kayak analogy. So the hand is making its own turn, but it's helping me push that board forward, getting onto the tail, which is going to turn tighter with less speed and help me make a beautiful track like that. One more here I want to show you. This one, mostly, it's another beautiful turn, but mostly because of the crowd controls. Now, I'm already looking up. I know they're there. I came in, I started gaining speed before, then they fly over the lip, and I'm like, I'm going for it anyway. I got 2 cameras on me, and as you can see, it's all roped off on the right side. So, well, skiers left, so I didn't really have to worry about people passing on that side. But I point this one out because I want you to be extra careful. When you start coming around 180, those skiers behind you are not expecting it. So clear your zone, do your head check, be careful. Here again, you can see how much bend is in that board. Look right there. Whoa, most of the board's in the air. I'm just riding the tail. And this is a very stiff board, so I have to lean really far back and pull really hard on that front leg. There you see it. I'm pulling that front leg, pushing, pushing, pushing on the back leg. And yeah, make it happen. Enjoy.
Yeah, I've been working on this trick basically since then. Toe sides. So we're gonna break this up, okay? And I count the degrees of track. Okay, so for a full 360, you gotta be exiting, or your track has to continue until you exit. Or if you go 270 tailspin, awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. It feels great going 270. You know, I love this turn. To me, it just like, they're the longest turns, you know, it just feels amazing. So I do them everywhere. You're gonna get to the bottom of the run and what, just break? Like I came here to turn, right? If there's a good open section, man, I'm taking one more with all the kinetic energy that I have, all the momentum, turn that into G-force. I came to turn. Anyway, so I count the degrees of track, right? Because you spin out whatever, that's awesome. So where are we here? I'm gonna mark them this way. I'm gonna say that's about 180, okay? And then, yeah, about up here is about 270. So we're just gonna mark those two, okay? Because we're gonna do different movements at each. Yeah, I'm probably gonna mix this up later. But the first 180, okay? All you wanna do is come in with a lot of speed, go wide, look for a flat spot, no people, do your head check for sure. This is a dangerous trick. I've come up with people quite often. Yeah, so do your head checks, pick a nice flat area that's wide, ideally to start, and just come in with a lot of speed wide. Like if you have too much speed for your board, we're all on production boards today. We got one custom here. Custom or production?
Production.
Production. Are you on a trench? It looks like a trench sidewall. What are you riding?
Something simpler than I don't know, like second-handed.
Okay.
No name thing.
Okay. There's a limited, so yeah, started talking about production boards there because there's a limited amount of speed that I can carve this board at, right? It's like there's a minimum and maximum turning speed / amounts of edge pressure for each board, right? The minimum amount it requires to turn and a maximum amount before it's going to chatter or slarve. But you want to be really close to your maximum when you're coming in here. Lots of speed, okay? I mean, if you arrive at 180 with a lot of speed, now you only have to do 180, right? But if you're already losing speed by the time you get there, yeah, you're gonna tune out around 270. I have tuned out around 270 1,000 times, for sure 1,000 times. So, but I've also seen people with some instruction get it in like a day or two. So good carvers, right? This is definitely an advanced trick. It's pretty physical too. Yeah, like they wear me out, a lot of 360s. And you're gonna wanna power into it. We're gonna show you the power part a little higher. So first 180, super simple, coming in toe side with lots of speed, right? To also maintain your speed, you're not gonna wanna drag, so just come in wide. And as you kind of lose speed, you can sort of tighten up, okay? Just normal, like a J turn or like any turn. It often ends up being kind of J turn style because you're coming in straight because you're gonna want to sort of place your turn somewhere specific. So if your lineup doesn't come, if your line in doesn't come in perfectly, then you'll be coming straight. So it's kind of like a J turn. So you can certainly watch that video. That's like a 180, right? And we talk a little bit in that video about shifting your weight back towards the end of the turn, towards that 180 mark. And we're definitely gonna do that here. We're gonna exaggerate that motion. That's where that extra kick, that power is gonna come from for that last 90, right? So, but yeah, so we're here at 180, pretty normal turn, okay? And at this point, you should be fairly balanced on your edge. I'm not usually, yeah, sometimes I go down early, put my hand down, but like that's about where you want to start putting your hand down, 120 to 180, I don't know, something like that. Yeah, I'll watch some video later, have a definite answer, but yeah. So now your hand is dragging, you're pretty neutral, okay? So now you want to start moving back on the board from 180 to 270, okay? So that's where the key changes. So you're going to want to exaggerate that kind of backwards motion and sort of using the friction from your dragging hand to kind of like, you know, pull your upper body back and let the board slide forward. And when you get to the top of the turn at 270, we're going to give it a real kick. Okay, but that's the position. At 180, you're going to want to be relatively neutral on your board, in a good stance, you know, and dragging that hand just lightly. You don't want to be slowing yourself down too much. We're going to use that hand as a rudder, but kind of later for the last bit, okay? So, yeah, there you are, 180 to 270, just kind of moving your weight back, getting some weight on that hand and just using that to kind of like get on the back of your board. The further you are back on the board, the tighter it's going to turn, right? And that's why we tighten up here, so we can complete that 360. Right, so at 270 now, and this is also key. I'm going to put my mittens on for this one. So particularly, we're going to talk a little later about like terrain choice, but you're either going to be flat or you're going to want to be at your high point at 270, okay? With just enough speed, just enough momentum and kinetic energy to give your board a kick, okay? So it'll be kind of like in this position here, and then, oh, right? So you're way back on your board. If you look at some video of my board, you'll see the board is like bent in the middle. Like the way you'll see guys like riding their tail, like butter tricks, you know? Those are stiff boards, those metal ones, man. I am pulling really hard on that front foot. I didn't even realize until I tried to do it with JC's plate, and it's like, this is not working at all, what the heck? It's like, oh, I'm not getting that front foot back, right? So you're not just leaning on the back foot, you're also pulling with the front foot as you're starting to use that hand now as a rudder. Like a kayaker would stick his paddle out like a brace and a rudder, and then with his core, bring the boat around and make a turn. The paddle doesn't move much, but the board comes around, or the kayak. Brace rudder, and as you're using that brace rudder with that dragging hand, I want you to start pulling it tight and tight and tight and towards your back toes. And guess what? Oh, now I can stand up, right? That's how you get back up. And maybe that's cheating, but I say as long as the track looks good and it comes out the way it came in, that's a 360 for sure. I think that's pretty much everything I know about 360s. I think heel sides we're going to do separately. Let's do a round. There's some good flat spots here. You want to follow me? I'm going to raise my hand just before I make a 360, and then you just stop above me. So I come up below you, okay? And then we're going to just open up wherever that area is, look for my track, or just kind of follow me down because it's not going to be right here. And yeah, just pick the nice flat spot, you know, come in with lots of speed, super wide. And yeah, start getting on your tail, and then the final kick at the end, and you're grabbing that hand to really make that kick and pulling that hand to your back toe to stand up. Woo. Any kind of bowl shape is super ideal. If you can find yourself like, I'm goofy, so I'm gonna come in this way on my toe side. If I can find myself at a high spot at 180, I'm golden, okay? You just gotta, it's enough to kick it, right? And then you start to accelerate again. And even if you're kind of lying on the ground, you can pick up enough speed and drag that back hand to your back toes and still kind of stand up. I think as long as you end up on your feet, you look cool. Like a 180 with a spin out, like you did, man. That's a cool trick, man. Looks good, and just keep pushing that 180 to 190 to 210, and yeah, figure it out. So another good spot for 360s is where like the the cat track passes a run, you know, like the cat track will go down here and you got like a 90-degree intersection or close, because they'll groom this, right, and the cat track. So if you can come in on the cat track, then right there at 180 you're at a high spot. That's, you know, nobody's coming. That's a really good good spot, because those are all over lots of mountains, right, where the two trails intersect. Yeah, but otherwise, and I think maybe for learning, flat is best. Big, wide open flat section. I mean, mini bowl, sure, a little surface. I say do it all and try the heel sides too. There's a couple, I know a bunch of actually great spots on this mountain. Tomorrow, if it's firm in the morning, we should do a 360 lap. There's a spot here where I did my first 720. It's just like somehow magical. It kind of like, I don't know, it comes in on a wall, so you end up like high up here after the first 3, but you just start gaining speed, and then you can do another 3. I don't know, I've never found another place like that, but I'd like to show you where it is, so maybe tomorrow you can catch me there. I don't know what we're doing tomorrow exactly, but hopefully carving.
More practice.
More practice, yeah. You basically know everything I know about 360s now. That was it.
James, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, the difference between the students and you is you are doing a circle, right? But they are doing a traverse the mountain. So like the turn is sharper here, but then it's not sharp here, and then it's sharper here. It's a very wide J turn, but instead what you're doing is just a circle here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you say would be the best way to try instead of going like this?
Yeah.
But going like this, like you.
Yeah, okay, good question. So I think the 360, the first 180 at least, is a super patience turn, okay? What that means is, like the J turn, you get into position right away, you drop in, you get on edge, and you just hold it, patience. So we talked about edge pressure a little bit earlier. I said boards have a minimum edge pressure that they'll need to turn and a maximum at which point they're going to chatter. So I want to think about like graphing, you know, edge pressure versus time. And what you want to do is you don't want to, and this, you have maximum edge pressure here, right? So at some, you want to kind of, what do they say, flatten the curve? Was that the thing, right? You want to flatten the curve. Racers want to spike that because they turn fast, right? It's a different kind of game. But we're trying to flatten that curve, find some patience in there. So because I know my board, my equipment, and you know, everything's pretty familiar, I know exactly how much speed and exactly what my radius needs to be to stay, to like basically level off that edge pressure and hold it. So I'm displacing the least amount of snow and traveling the least amount of distance in order to maintain as much speed as possible. So I'm just, yeah, they're maybe spiking their edge pressure early, and now it's like they're losing their speed, right? Or if they are turning tighter, as you suggest at the beginning, and then lengthening across the mountain, it's maybe just out of habit, or it's maybe because they don't know what it feels like to just keep holding on and keep turning. And that's what we're doing here. So you drop into that position, you find patience, and just let the board come around, displacing the least amount of snow possible to maintain as much speed as you can. And yeah, that takes practice for sure. But I mean, on better days, on a lot of boards in the right section, like you can 360 almost any board. And these boards are kind of some of the easiest because I don't need as much speed. It doesn't take as much energy. It's already got less side cut. It's easier to bend and really get on the tail for lots of reasons. Yeah, but also physical. Also physical. It's a very physical thing for sure. I put a lot of power into that last kick. Any other questions? All done? Okay. Again, thanks for joining the Montucky 25 360 Clinic. Hope to see all of you here next year. And yeah, that's a wrap.
Woo!